Hello everyone, and welcome to the review of this long-awaited, favourite, fun, cheap, and ridiculously unique tank in Armoured Warfare. The Tier 3 main battle tank. More like a light tank. The Leopard 1. It can be accessed pretty early in the game, so you don't really need to go out of your way to get there, unlike many other vehicles. It sits in Wolfie's line right after the M41, so you can get it literally right afterwards. And it's a it's a little bit more difficult to use than other MBTs on its tier, and it kind of really feels like the only light tank. So let's start off by having a look at the bunch of the modifications you get with this vehicle. I should probably adjust my microphone. So at start you get some applique armor, which for the most part simply gives you some side skirts. Or better side skirts. Let's see what that does. So this is stock, with the stock armor versus its own AP shells, as you can see there. And the applique armor basically adds in some turret stuff, which, as you can see there, gives you some little extra protection and also widens the mantle to cover more of the turret, which, considering this thing's armor, you're probably going to want that. But this is a light tank, so the first place to go is straight for firepower. I would recommend going for the improved fire control system first, and then going straight for the heat rounds. 450 pen of heat is absolutely exceptional. This is in comparison to the M60, which gets 300, the Dragoon, which gets 350. You get the idea. It has the best heat rounds in its tier, and this gives it the ability to punch far above its weight, which is a good idea. Next up, you want to go for the HESH shells and an improved gun stabilization. The AP ammo, not really that much exceptional. You're only really going to use that AP at long range or against tier 5s and stuff when they start to have the applique armor and stuff. And then lastly, there's also the ready racks, which gives you better reload time by 5%. So it's not bad. And then lastly, you can go for the applique armor or the smoke grenades. The torsion bars don't really help that much, but oh well, it's there. So fully loaded configuration for me is 10 AP, 24 heat, and 16 HESH. In your own tier, at most part, you're probably going to be using a mix between the HESH at close range, the heat at medium range, and maybe the AP at long range. For other MBTs in the tier, considering there's basically no tanks with HESH protection, except for maybe the Turan, you can use those pretty well, and they will give you the punch you need to be able to do damage and module damage, which, given your lack of armor, gives you the ability to fire first in the fight. As you can see here, we have a reload time of 6.53 seconds, which is exceptional. And of course, the usual surplus parts create first aid cabinet and stuff. However, considering this more feels like a light tank, I've gone for improved filter systems, telescopic lenses for an extra 70 meters of view range, and an improved gun breach. So let's compare it to some MBTs in its tier. So, such as the Chieftain, the M60, the Turan, and the Type 79. So as you can see here, its damage does kind of fall behind the others, being slightly less than that, but also better than the Turan and the Type 79. Its penetration with its AP rounds is actually pretty good, and it has the highest DPM. However, remember, if we're going to be using heat rounds, this basically skyrockets. The hull armor is pretty, well, the hit points is pretty decent, but considering the heat rounds and HESH rounds are going to be flown along in this tier, it's not really going to help. Lastly, the camo range with Juan is pretty good, and the view range while stocked is also exceptional as well, and you also have very decent gun depression as well, with very good aim time and accuracy. And lastly, the turret degrees of 48 seconds means that, to be honest, not much is going to happen. So, onto the commanders. I personally use Juan. This was recommended to me by Arcangelo, and is basically a more of a light tank commander. So you get a bunch of stuff, all for the light tanks, And you also get your crew stats improved by 15% with the use of a consumable. Some stabilization stuff as well, however you can always go further into this part, but generally speaking that's up to you. I simply prefer going down this line. And it generally suits the playstyle. Other commanders you could use could be Victor if you want to do the ultimate Hesh damage. Lots of anti-module damage there. And you could also perhaps use Cortez if you want to max roll on your hits, but that's not really particularly recommended, as generally speaking you're not going to be able to two-shot many things in your own tier, and your gun damage isn't really that great to begin with, so that's up to you. And lastly, you could perhaps use Freya if you want to be speedy, but I feel like Juan is probably the best out of these. And I also forgot to say Philip as well, who feels like more of a durability commander, but it's not really that going to help. As said before, the protection on this tank is absolutely garbage. You can occasionally bounce things, but it's not really that great. For instance, let's compare it to, say, a autocannon on the same tier. So, tier 3. Let's pick the XM800. Yeah, you can be penetrated by 20mm rounds. The 330 heat shells are going to go everywhere, so the only real place of protection you have is the mantle, which is thankfully quite big with the applique armor, as you can see there. So hitting the thing's turret can be a little bit difficult for people, but the armor is basically butter, as well as the fact the ammo rack is in the front. This means that Hesh firing vehicles such as the Scorpion and the Chieftain are going to be your biggest threat, but thankfully you can Hesh them back. Lastly, its protection is basically garbage on the sides, but hopefully people should be able to shoot that, so that's up to you really. Overall, this is a very speedy little tank. As you can see here, the mobility is also quite good, which the game is going to show. Top speed is 65 kilometers an hour, a very respectable and a very fast for this tier of 5 seconds. It weighs about 40 tons, so light tanks ramming you aren't going to do that much. You have a camouflage rating of 24% and a view range of that. If you possibly wanted to and you were concerned about being ammo racked, you could always swap yourself for a reinforced ammo rack, but this vehicle feels like something you should do the punch in rather than being punched, so to say. So let's go to Carlos. The vehicle, I like it. It's speedy, punchy, fast, good view range, and it can also be used quite well in PvE due to the firepower the thing brings, as you can see here. 6.5 second reload time, 500 damage heat shells, 500 damage Hesh shells. It's all pretty fun. So it's a good, decent all-round vehicle, and it has a very, very different playstyle from the other vehicles on the same line. And to be honest, it's the only Leopard in the game that can actually perform what the role is, which is speedy, fast sniper tanks. The others kind of feel more like assault tanks, to be honest. And also, hilariously enough, this is the only vehicle in the game that actually follows the development time of tanks from 1950s to 60s, where they were given heat rounds and Hesh shells, so the Germans decided armor was useless, so they just made the Leopard one. Anyway, crew skills wise, I haven't really updated them in a while. Probably want to go for off-road driving and field repair to get your repair speed up. Being trapped in this thing is death, so if you can get yourself going 25% faster, it's all good. Gunner wise, turret twist and accuracy, but you could always go for preventive maintenance and maybe quick draw. Preventive maintenance, people do shoot at your turret a lot and they can damage it, so preventive maintenance could help with that. And finally, loader skills, rapid fire maybe, but you can basically swap that out with the ready rack and maybe go for preparation and secured ammunition, to which the game I'll be using later today will actually be using explosive shells and preparation to show you. So for now, let's have a look at some games. So this is not exactly a mobility match, it's more of just seeing at long range how the Leopard 1 performs, and it performs pretty well. As I said before, the gun depression is pretty good. The penetration on the heat rounds means that they're effective at pretty much every distance. However, the HEP rounds shouldn't be really used at any distance, and for most part, when it comes to firing at tanks such as the, let's say, Magax, the Shock Cow, tanks with weird heat protection and stuff, this is the time when you kind of want to use those AP rounds, simply because they don't have the, I'm gonna say, weirdness against slopes and armor angles that heat rounds do. So anyway, we're on Patonica, and since this isn't exactly an MBT, the best place to go for me on this map is usually to around E2, where especially on this kind of tier, this thing's higher view range means that you can actually spot people. You can't exactly spot people like a light tank or an AFE, but you should be able to spot them better than just about any other MBT on your tier, and possibly TDs as well. The reverse speed of the tank means you can pop in and out of places, and the turret kind of works, kind of. You shouldn't really rely on it, as said before, to be honest. So we're on this part of the map, and I've already seen a Shock Cow, and I'm going to fire heat rounds at this guy. 452 damage is pretty decent. It's nowhere near the usual 500, 600, 700 you get on the T64, but they have higher penetration, and they have. Damn, I'm comparing this thing to a T64. It isn't. This is a tier 3. The T64 is a tier 4, but you can actually hit T64s, T72s, and T80s. If they don't have the ERA, the HEP rounds should actually be able to go for their front plate, so that's a nice little tidbit there. And considering the abundance of HEP rounds on this tier, if you could use them when the Object 279 meta was a thing, you could also kill them with that as well, because you could ammo rack them. So anyway, we've done 1200 damage. Bunch of heat round hits. As you can see, the second one didn't get the bonus, and this is where the slight screwy of the heat rounds come into play, because that Magac has ERA, and as you well know, the ERA can be a little bit of an issue sometimes, even though despite the high penetration, which is, I think it's the best in its tier. Oh, it has some heat, it has some better heat pen than some tier 5s, so you can use that. So this thing does work pretty well as a long range spotter. It's pretty accurate. The fast reload of 6.83 seconds is one of the best in its tier, if not the best. And it does hit pretty hard as well. The unfortunate part is that there's going to be an M113A covering around, and it's always kind of awkward when it happens. As you can see there, if I was using an AP round, that would have hit, since it has a far higher travel time than the heat rounds do. And you can occasionally bounce shots. The gun and the gun mantle, I think they do, but the rest of the tank is basically papers. The Armada over there, I have no idea what he was trying to do. If I had been pushing up in this map, it would have gone horribly wrong. And not to mention the fact this is low tiers, so there are a fun abundance of seal clubbers. And that hit me in the turret side, as you can see there, I think. So you shouldn't really rely on this thing's armor. It's like a, oh, I bounced something, not like, oh, I should bounce something. It's, oh, shit. Something didn't kill me. So 2 round 6 over there. And of course, when you pen armor, the extra module damage that heat rounds get is pretty cool as well. And of course, next game will be showcasing how much more mobile this thing is, which is always good. I haven't really used the reverse speed so far, but this does reverse back pretty quickly, which can come in handy when you're, you know, confronted by people that may possibly want to kill you. So there's a bit of waiting around for this bit. That is the unfortunate issue with Patonica, in that you can't really support each other's sides. Even on higher tiers, most of the time you can't really hit the enemy over there, and if you do, you want to be over that area or that area there, and yeah, no armor whatsoever. So we're going to skip forward a couple of bits. There we go. And this is when the game starts to get a little bit more interesting. M113 is still down there, however the team is actually starting to move in on him. That's one of the things you want to do with Botanica, is that sometimes you just have to sacrifice yourself to kill those scouts, because if they get into a bush, especially on the night map, they can really, really kill people. And it's not always good that, you know. So we're going to keep moving. Just keep budging up by a bit. The M113 ACAV's down. I'm doing a lot of blind fire here. Usually go with about roughly 16 HEP, 20-30 heat rounds, and about 10 AP. The main ammo of this tank is the heat rounds, to be honest, and if you're not using those as your main weapon, it's kind of, why are you doing that? I mean, the heat rounds do hit for 398 damage, but the best part about them is, due to the high penetration, you can go through higher tiers, you can go through lower tiers. They don't have the same issue that others do, which is, as I said before, the low pen. However, at max ranges like this, things can be a little bit awkward, and I do wish I hit that guy, but oh well. So at this point we're going to start moving up. A little bit cautious in the Leopard when advancing. As said before, its armor, it doesn't have any. So when you want to hit things, when you want to move up at people, you always have to be reminded that your entire front is the ammo rack. Your turret offers very little protection. So it's kind of played more like a light tank. That is why I use Carlos. I could use Cortez if I wanted to max roll for every shot, but then the other bonuses you get with Cortez wouldn't really work, would they? And here's the type. Hi type. As you can see, they're good HEP round into him. If I was using Victor, I might have been able to detonate his ammo rack or something. But anyway, that's basically the last part of the game. Not a bad game, if I'll say so. Anyway, let's let's have a look at the post-game stats when the game decides to load. So, when we get there, if and when, I've run in with a 1080 and a Ryzen 1700 here, and people with like worse PCs get to the garage before I do. It's weird. Oh no, it happens. Come on, please load. So, some more information about Leopard 1. HEP rounds are good. Heat rounds are very good. The EP rounds are kind of bog standard. And I'm going to have to exit the game completely, aren't I, and go back in. So, after reloading the game, it turns out I did almost 4,000 damage, which is... I made a couple of blind shots that I thought I didn't hit, as you can see there, 1,200. And a bunch of one hits to all of these guys. Hit on the Scorpion, hit on the Magak, hit on the Turan, XM800, LAV, Type 90, ruined his module. You shouldn't really expect to do that much module damage with this. If you want to, you should use Victor, of course, and second on the team with some little spot damage as well. I was able to, of course, spot the shot cow for myself, and all that good stuff. So, I did pretty much all the damage I could. Total potential damage, I hit most of my hits. Well, 50%. You can blind shot. You do have enough ammo to do that, which is pretty reasonably decent, and of course your reload time is pretty good as well. Mitigated 952 damage, simply from non-penetrating hits, but we also received 4 hits. So, that happens, and not really that much credits. I don't really expect much to have massive games in my Leopard 1. It's low tier, it's got no armor. There's a lot of seal clubbers running around with like massive DPM monsters like the Chieftains and the higher tiers like the Scorpion 90 and the Scorpion on tier 3 and the LAV 150 90, but it's a pretty fun tank overall. So anyway, next game. So this is a live recording, which means technically while this is a voiceover, this is me doing this. So Roughneck, Siberia, line up of here, we can be guaranteed that those chieftains are very likely to be using Hesh. Those Tyrans are probably going to be the most difficult targets to take down. The Type 79s and the M60s and the T62 could be Hesh from the front, and the ACAVs and the Dragoons are also very likely to be using Hesh or Heat either way. The BMDs have very powerful missiles, and that OT-65A is basically a complete chump. So the best place for me to go is probably going to be either I0 or right at the front. Sniping is going to be a pain in this map, and I kind of like to get stuck in, so I'm going to go towards I0 and I'm going to let my team know. Got a couple of seconds to wait, but hopefully the speed of this thing should mean that I'm in position at least at roughly the same time the BMPs get there, if they are getting there at all. So the high view range of this tank, the telescopic lenses, means that if I can get there and I'm unopposed, I should be able to spot any enemies coming my way, MBTs and the like, and also have a pretty decent shot of spotting any AFVs if they decide to fire at me. So the usual thing I like to go on this map is to use the road to get there, and then head off-road around this part so I don't get shot in the sides. So head off the road, go through the water, and then come up again. It's a little bit slower, but the paranoid payoff of especially, you know, using this thing with the weak ammo rack and everything, kind of pays it off for me. Facebook is being a dick. Give me a second. Anyway. So this is the part I'm going to head off-road. I very much despise getting shot at. And it seems that a good portion of my team has come with me as well, so we have that BMD. Okay, there's an M60 coming up, which means he's very likely to have support. As you can see there, there's not just one tank coming down, so we should be able to hash him. There he is. Missed. Okay, there's also another tank over there. Did you hear that shot going in? So you have to be a little bit paranoid when playing the Leopards. That T62 looks like he's going to suicide all the way in, which means I'm going to have... Okay, I'm not going to have a shot on this M60. So it's very likely there's a bunch of like snipers on the D area down there. But now I think about it, maybe I should have gone the other line. But it happens. So I'm going to hook round and see about using that part of the refinery over there for cover. I don't mind taking a hit from the M60 because I'm pretty sure I can go straight for his turret. As such, this is a tier 3 game and I don't really need to worry that much about his quote-unquote firepower. So let's keep working around. That M113 ACAV got hit by him, I'm very sure of that. And it looks like that was a heat shell. Let's wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. There you go, 440 damage. Pretty cool, and there's a chieftain over there and stuff. So just keep moving up. See about using anything for cover. Let's see if we can spot any enemies that go around. I should be able to at least hit that Tyran over there if he comes up. However, my hair shells aren't going to do much. I'm going to switch to heat now. Okay, so at least one of them is still there. So they can't see me. Cav over there. Hi, Cav. See, 425 heat. If I was using the hash, that would have gone a lot worse. 448, not bad. Okay, that's 2 guys hit. But there's still a bunch of enemies lying around. Unfortunately, I have like a bunch of seconds left on my smoke timer. The only commander that really helps with getting your smoke reload time is Gaia, and that. Please don't use gear on this thing. And since there's like a bunch of AFEs left and stuff, I can be pretty sure I want to use my Fedra left. He's down. I said the good gun handling of this thing means that I am able to be a lot faster than most people. Let's see where this ACAV's going. Can I get a hit on him? Okay, he's likely to be... Okay, there's beam. Okay, there's a BIMP and an ACAV, so... There you go, 519. They haven't expected me to be here, so I should be able to farm some damage from them. BMP doesn't see me. He's using the hydraulic suspension. I think we might be able to get a ram kill this time, so let's put a HESH shell into that BIMP. And... There we go. Smoke up. Beautiful. I could have rammed that BIMP first, but it has issues. So, generally speaking, I've used the speed of this thing. The camouflage meant that I didn't get spotted while that Tyrann did. The HESH shells and the heat rounds meant that I was able to penetrate those guys and do damage, whereas AP rounds would have done less. And unfortunately the accuracy on the move didn't exactly really particularly help there. And I get a 4th kill. Not bad. So, the important thing about using a Leopard is to be aggressive, but also to be mindful of your weaknesses. As you can see there, once I started taking hits, there was nothing I could do to stop them. So if you're going to get hit, make sure that the hits you take are ones that aren't needlessly wasted. That's what I can say for the best. 3,000 damage done, that's actually pretty cool. At least 2 hits on that BIMP, 2 hits on the M113 ACAV, at least 1 hit there. 400 damage, pretty good for 105mm, decent reload, and we got 2nd on the team with that Dragoon doing the best. Didn't really spot anyone, but the 4 kills and everything meant that I was at least able to see what I was shooting at. And the camouflage there meant that I didn't really take as many hits as if I didn't have that 25% there. So 4 kills, 3,000 damage, total potential damage, roughly the same, 2 misses, 8 hits. So I hit and did every damage I could do. No damage mitigated except for, I believe it was a heat shell by the BIMP. So in total, what I was saying earlier is that I was ready to take a shot from that M60 because he would have pointed his turret towards me. As you can see here, the protection system on the M60. Let's take the Leopard's one heat shell for example. So if he would have turned his turret towards me, I would have been able to aim at this spot here and here, and maybe the commander's coup powder as well. So while he would have done a heat shell to me, I would have done a HESH shell to him, knocked out the loader, gunner commander, turret ring and stuff like that, and he would have also exposed himself to my team coming around. The same thing with that BIMP and that M113, I could have stayed there, but I feel like the rush, kill the BIMP, ram the M113 ACAV was also a good idea as well. And lastly, the mobility allowed me to get up the hill and do one final hit of damage into that BIMP. It's kind of annoyed that I didn't get to hit him, but it happens. So, this is a fun tank. It's unique in its playstyle compared to other tanks. It's like a hybrid MBT light tank, and to be honest, it would be better off as a light tank in the game. It has major flaws. It has an ammo rack in the front, the armor is not there, and it's so weak to HESH and heat rounds it's not even funny, but its strengths, the view range, the gun, the speed, the gun depression, it's a mixed bag, and I do recommend playing this for at least in the fact that if you're new to Armored Warfare, if you haven't gone the Leopard line yet, this is such a different vehicle to play that it's fun. It truly is fun. I've never had as much fun playing an MBT in the low tiers as I have with this one. So for once, I'm not going to do a retarded system. I'm going to give this tank a 7 out of 10. That's how I feel about it. And if you have the funds, pick up one. do something different. For now guys, that's it for the review. As always, like and subscribe. Next week's review will be the Sprite SD, a tank which I have so many problems playing with, it's not even funny. Yeah. So, that's it for now. If you'd like to help support the stream and me, there is a link below for donations and stuff. And every single penny is never wasted. So take care everyone, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.